The Monastery of Geghard contains a number of churches and tombs, most of them cut into the living rock, which illustrate Armenian medieval architecture at its highest point. The complex of medieval buildings is set into a landscape of great natural beauty, at the entrance to the Azat Valley. High cliffs from the northern side surround the complex, while the defensive wall encircles the rest. Trees around the monastery are often dotted with strips of cloth. It is said a person can say a prayer or make a wish and tie a strip of cloth to a tree near the monastery to make it come true. At the early period, the monastery was called Airivang, which means monastery in the cave, because of its rock-cut construction. The monastery was founded, according to tradition, by Saint Gregory the Illuminator, and was built following the adoption of Christianity as a state religion in Armenia, in the beginning of the 4th century. The main church is in the classic Armenian form, an equal-armed cross covered with a dome on a square base. On the internal walls there are many inscriptions recording donations. The first rock-cut church was built before 1250, entirely dug into the rock. To the east, a roughly square chamber cut into the rock was one of the princely tombs of the Prushian dynasty. This gives access to the second rock-cut church built in 1283. A defensive wall encircled the monastery complex in the 12th to 13th centuries. Most of the monks lived in cells excavated into the rock face outside the main defensive wall, which have been preserved. The Monastery of Geghard is a cultural center of medieval Armenia, where a school, scriptorium, library, and much more could be found in addition to the religious constructions. The most celebrated relic that was housed at the monastery is the spear which had wounded Christ on the cross. From this comes its present name, Geghard, the Monastery of the Spear. The spear was kept in the monastery for 500 years. Relics of the apostles Andrew and John were donated in the 12th century.